T.J.Sharpe describes himself as a patient, survivor, advocate, but he's also a writer and a speaker and a patient expert, and we were thrilled to see him at this conference because he was actually one of the inspirations for the work that we are developing in this area. It was actually one of our clients that told us all about him, and once you read his blog and you hear from him, you'll understand why we were so excited to meet him. Hello TJ, it's lovely to see you here at Scope. It's our first time at Scope, and our readers are actually quite new to the whole area and new to you as a celebrity. So I would really like, if you wouldn't mind, just to tell our readers exactly how you came to get involved in the clinical trial scene and in Scope in particular.
Sure. 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago, I was re-diagnosed. I had a stage 1 melanoma when I was 25 years old, and it recurred 12 years after the first occurrence. I looked for a clinical trial at the time. My wife had just had our second son, so we had 2 children under the age of 2.5, and the standard of care would have given me about 18 months to live. That wasn't going to be enough to watch those little guys grow up. So I looked for a clinical trial, and it took me 4 second opinions before I found one. There was a little hurdle to get over. The contract wasn't signed, and one of the things that resonates in the industry with my story is that every time a piece of paper doesn't make it across the desk or go through someone's inbox, it's another life a family who's being affected. So I was able to get my first clinical trial started by navigating through the contract signing process and sort of speeding them along a little bit, and it didn't work. The trial didn't work, so it was a combination of immunotherapies. Fortunately, I found a second clinical trial, actually an advocacy organization found it for me for one of the anti-PD-1 drugs. I was on the second ever trial for one of them, and about 18 months in, we had scans that said I was all clear. Actually still on the trial. I stopped the medicine 75 doses and 4.5 years in.
Fantastic.
But we finally got a scan report that said, we don't suspect you have any malignant disease, which was great. For the first time, someone told me I didn't have cancer in almost 5 years. So in the 4+ years I was on the trial, I was able to become involved in the clinical research organization. A woman by the name of Christine Pierre, who was the president of SCRS, and who unfortunately just passed away this past year of ocular melanoma. She was able to share my story and bring me here to Scope 5 years ago this weekend and share my story on stage, and it touched a lot of people. There's the difficulty of a patient finding a trial, of getting the trial started, of finding the right treatment for the right person at the right time, really hit home with a lot of people. I'm fortunate that I had already had a little bit of a voice in the melanoma world. I wrote a blog, and I was sort of involved in the melanoma advocacy. But this opened up a new career path for me. As an IT project manager, I didn't know a ton about clinical trials. But I knew that I had a voice, and I was able to affect change in the industry. So I am now a speaker and a consultant or an advisor to a number of the pharma companies, and I've dealt with a lot of the CRO and associated businesses. And what I try to do is speak for the patients who can't speak or won't be able to figure out how to articulate their struggles.
Yeah. So. It's actually very interesting because it was your story told to us by one of the people that you had spoken to that has started us on this whole new career pathway for RX, and it's a very exciting sort of area to be in, it seems to me, but there still seems to be some gaps. I mean, you've been doing your job and doing your advocacy for 5 years. Where do you think the single biggest gap still is in clinical research, clinical trials?
The biggest gap, and there are probably a series of gaps that are all in one, is the true integration of a patient voice, and not just a token effort, and not just listening to patients that might not articulate all the problems the patient population faces. The biggest gap is getting patients like myself or many others that are better at this than I am but that are able to speak for a group of patients, that can be involved in the clinical trial process from the conception of a trial all the way through regulatory approval, and to keep that voice in the trial, in with the company, in with the CRO, at the site level, the entire time. It's the biggest industry in the world. It's the most important one, and yet we don't listen to our customers.
Thank you very much, TJ. I really appreciate you coming and talking to us and giving us a different perspective on life.
You are welcome. I'm
Thank you.
glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.